Hello, welcome to the introduction episode of my new tutorial series for Spyro 2 Reignited Trilogy for the Europe category. I've decided to do kind of like a 0th episode just to explain a couple of things regarding the run and just the format of the tutorial series overall. SRT, and in particular Spyro 2, isn't a very intuitive game. You have to have some of the things explained to you, because otherwise you won't be able to do some of the tricks and some of the things, and you won't understand why, and you mostly will get frustrated or discouraged because of it. That's why I decided to finally sit down and record this tutorial series for you. Now, I kinda want to explain to you how the tutorial series is going to look like before we actually progress with the actual important stuff. I kind of want this tutorial to be as detailed as possible. So I'm going to include as much information as I can. Usually, we're just going to start with me yapping probably about something before the level actually begins. And then we're going to slowly walk through the level. I'm going to be walking from one important spot to another. On our way there, I'm just going to show you which gems we usually take during that route, which enemies we kill, and just stuff like that essentially. And then after we arrive at our destination, I'm just going to sit there for a while and explain to you in as much detail, whether it's a trick or just something important overall. I'm going to try my best to give you an easier time. And that's basically how the entire split is going to look like. We're just going to move from one important spot to the other, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do on our way there, like what enemies we kill, what gems we get, and so on. At the end of the split, I kinda want to include the fastest clip of that split I can possibly find and describe everything again, what's happening on your screen. With that, I'm also going to include the most important informations, for example, like how many gems we collect during a split, or what orbs we get, just things that matter. As I know many of you will probably be playing the game for the first time, I also want to include alternate routes that are just going to be easier for the beginners. Because trust me, 40 orb is not an easy category. It's mostly because of me. It's because of me. I kinda broke the game in that regard. But I think the run is much more fun now. What is this run even? Because we haven't even got to this point where I explain what the run actually is. So, 40 orb in Spyro 2 Reignited Trilogy basically means that we have to collect 40 out of 64 possible orbs in the game, which are the collectibles that are required to open the gate to the last boss of the game. There are also other collectibles that we have to get during a run, like gems and talismans, but we're going to talk about them during the level walkthroughs. And this run is focused way more on tricks than on movement. But fear not, if you play this game enough, if you play this category enough, your movement will also improve. It's not like you can spend so much time on playing this category and just not improve at the movement. You will get better. You won't get as good as you would get if you played some other category, like for example 120%. But if you are a trick fan, something that looks more flashy than is practical, then this category is so much fun. It is about an hour long, which probably satisfies most of you. I know an average speedrunner likes their run to be about like 40 minutes or so. My record is, I believe, under 46 minutes, and that's LRT, which is load removed time. So you can get around an hour RTA. Now that we're talking about tricks, let me just say that the difficulty of said tricks varies. It's different. Some tricks are easier to perform, some tricks are harder, some tricks are one attempt only, others you can do as many attempts as you want. But now that we're talking about actually doing them, you might wonder if there are any tools that would help you with practicing said tricks. We don't really have any tool as of yet. The only tool that we have is a console injector that I'm going to put in the description of this video, along with the explanation on how to use it. The only thing that this tool does is it allows us to load any level that we want. And it's also very janky, but it's the best we have. So if you want to practice some tricks that are one attempt only, this is your only option. And if you want to practice some tricks that are multiple attempts only, then you're better off just going into your save slot or whatever. There are a couple of core mechanics in the game, and while I could just show you an alternate route, which is basically like a casual route or something, I kind of want to teach you those core mechanics and completely skip the casual routes and just show you the most basic and the most advanced routes with the core mechanics. Of course, we're going to talk about them when we get to actually using them in some level. There are also some nuances that I would like to mention before we actually start with the actual playing the game, you know. First of all, the FPS. FPS changes a lot in this game. Most notably, it changes how high Spyro actually jumps. If we play on lower FPS, that means that the game has less time to apply gravity to Spyro, which means that he actually jumps higher. This run doesn't really have a recommended FPS value, but if you want to be an absolute purist and you want to be the most optimal you can be, you will have to go into options and change your FPS down to 30, which is the lowest you are allowed to run at. It is optimal because there's another thing about 30 FPS and just physics in this game in general. Basically, if you wait in your game for 75 minutes, we originally thought it was 90, so it is called 90 minutes, don't mind us. Then for some reason something changes in the way Unreal Engine interprets gravity, and Spyro actually falls slower, meaning that essentially he will also jump either higher or further, depending on how you look at it. There are a couple of levels where this can be abused, but I am going to mention those tricks beforehand and show you the alternate ways as well, so that you don't get confused. Some people are scared of playing on 30 FPS because it's just choppy gameplay. They cannot get used to such a low FPS value. They can also go to like 36, some have 37. You can go to that value as well. It doesn't really matter if you want to do the alternate routes, which, by the way, are probably like 10 seconds slower at the most. Then you can play on 36 or 37 or whatever. because that also saves a little time on skipping the dialogues inside the game. Other graphics options don't really matter. You can choose whatever you want. I would recommend turning off motion blur. The rest doesn't really matter. Also foliage quality I would recommend to set on low. In 4 it doesn't really matter, but for other categories like 100 and less, or just in different games as well, the grass can sometimes just obscure your view on like gems or whatever. It's just a little bit cleaner, and most of the time it helps you because you are not afraid of missing any gems that can be hiding inside the grass. Now, the last thing that I want to mention is the controls for the game. Essentially, we play on controller the entire time. When we go through the levels, I am going to have an input display in a corner as well, so that you can see what I'm doing. But essentially, we play most of the game on controller. And that's with an analog stick. There are some things, particularly a crucial mechanic that we're going to talk about in later episodes, that are, in my opinion, better off with doing them on D-pad. So that's something to take under consideration. And there's also a keyboard and mouse strat. Basically, if you play with a mouse, Spyro turns faster during supercharges, and that helps us with cutting corners in some places. In Spyro 2 and for the Europe in particular, I don't think it's being used that often. There's maybe like one level or two levels where this can actually be applied. But I'm going to tell you when we actually get to them. Just have it in mind that technically playing supercharged parts on keyboard and mouse is always going to be optimal. With that said, I hope I didn't bore you too much, and we're ready to hop into the game. By going into the save slots, I actually have all my save slots filled, so we're just going to delete a save slot, I don't know. And this is how our menu should look like if we're about to start the run. It has to be on empty, then we click it, and then we click Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. So let's get into the first level, which is Glimmer.